Please.
Okay, so we are recording, and this is super awesome. So just quick intro. This is a really great gentleman, Robert Hudgens, out of Argyle, Texas, right? Still in Argyle?
Still in Argyle.
Outside of Dallas area. And I just want to say, just straight up from the beginning, thank you for making some time. You know, like we have a relationship, and I just appreciate you because you have a lot of stuff going on. But I wanted to kind of frame out why we're going to talk today, and for those people that are tuning in and kind of listening to this. And so this really all came about because of the government shutdown that happened recently. And again, I guess my blanket statement is I'm not here to complain about the decision the president made or the government or any of that. I just found myself in a lot of conversations with people, right? Because people that were affected were Secret Service, the whole Coast Guard, air traffic controllers. About 600,000 people's world got flipped completely upside down. And in a matter of one paycheck cycle or two paycheck cycles, people were really hurting. And I'm completely empathetic to that, and I'm sure you are as well, Robert. But for me, because I knew people in some of those areas, I found myself kind of at the end of the conversations with them asking kind of like, do you think you could have played the game a little better, right? Like, because I think I think that both of us would agree, opportunity is everywhere right now.
Right.
And a lot of people, I think, you know, maybe it's just they weren't educated or they don't know someone close enough that's had success inside of an industry. So that's why I kind of wanted to talk with Robert. So Robert, how did you and I meet?
It's a pretty cool story when you think about it. First of all, thanks, Michael, for inviting me to be on this because I still remember looking back at that initial video that you did. And if you haven't had a chance to look at that video, guys, and you're watching this one, go back. And I mean, it's pretty powerful because I just love how real it is. But he's talking about the government shutdown and I mean, just goes into his thoughts. And it's cool because it inspired me. It was like, you know what? He's absolutely right. But Michael and I met. It's pretty cool. I lived in a small town in Northeast Iowa at the time. Now, originally, my wife and I are from the Dallas-Fort Worth area here in Texas. But we moved up to Iowa. People ask me why, and I ask myself that every day of the winter. And so, you know, and my wife and I got involved with an amazing health and fitness company early on whenever they started the direct sales of the network side of the business. We were actually two of the founders in that company. And that being said, we were able to do something that neither one of us had any experience in doing. We had never been in any type of company like that, but what we had a passion for health and fitness. We had a passion for helping others. And unbeknownst to me, I guess people got to figure out who I was because of my success in that. And because a good friend of mine, who is a world famous fitness trainer, just happened to be doing a world tour and stopped in to see this lovely gentleman right here in Italy. And it's kind of wild. I love the story of they were running behind or something like that. So they actually didn't get to make it to the workout. So they were in the commissary eating. And here he comes in, and Tony Horton is the world famous guy, P90X guy, walks in, sees their young son, and then automatically is just like a crazy, goofy, starts talking googly mush to the kid and stuff. And Michael just gets to strike up a conversation with him. He and Rachel do, and they, you know, and he starts talking to him a little bit. And I guess Tony may have said my name or whatever, but this guy hunted me down from over in Italy when he was over there working. And we struck up a conversation over the phone and via video conferencing and this, that, and the other. And so we've, you know, it was an amazing friendship and mutual respect that blossomed into a great business relationship along the way and has lasted for, 10 years, 9 years, 10 years. So it's been awesome, man.
Yeah. And so, yeah, it's good that you
You didn't think
remember.
I remembered that story
Oh,
now,
well,
did you?
I kind of figured you did because it's kind of an odd story of the
Yes.
connection and stuff like that. But what was really neat at that time, for those of you who don't know the background, so I basically had destroyed my hip on a parachute landing incident. I did 23 years in the military, and I had destroyed my hip, and I was using P90X to kind of rehabilitate myself and try to. I was kicking the can of surgery down the road. And what was really powerful about running into Tony was, um, he planted a seed that really, for me, timing was perfect, right? Like I was almost at 20 years in the military. I kind of had a feeling like operationally, like the physical nature of what I did in the military, it was very tough, and my body just was not, up to par, I would say, any longer. And I was in massive need of surgery, and I'm trying to figure out my exit strategy. Because in my old world in the military, most people either take their military hat off and put the civilian equivalent on, or they go overseas and contract, and very lucrative world. But the reality with me being a serial entrepreneur and then a father for, once again, a new child who didn't necessarily need to go through what my two oldest went through throughout my career, I was very passionate about more time with them. So I was trying to really figure out my exit strategy, and so stars aligned, whatever you want to call it, and I met and I hunted Robert down, literally, like he said. I hunted him down, and
Kind of scared me at first, but
so I'm in Italy. That's 2009. I think it was October when we kind of kicked it off, and then I retired a couple years a couple of years later. And for me, I was really passionate. Like, Rachel and I were recently married. She was a school teacher. I kind of derailed her career. We were about to take a $65,000 pay cut from going from active duty to retirement, and that was absolutely freaking her out. So I just, one thing I believe in was providership was my responsibility. So I was just open when Tony planted that. So let's talk a little bit about your story, because it's a really powerful story. And I know for a fact that, our stories are not perfect parallels, but there's a lot of similarities on what you were going through as a guy, as a husband, as a father, and then just situations. So talk a little bit about your story.
Well, I'll try not to make it as long and tearful as I typically do, but basically, my wife and I have been married for going on 22 years now, and one of the things that just to briefly speak of my story, I grew up basically without a father. He was never around. When he was around, he was basically in a recliner watching TV, or he was out cheating on my mom. But the one thing that he never did was get to really father me, or be my dad. And, I always mention that, I never got the talk. I never was told how to treat a woman, how to be a good husband, how to be a good father. I definitely never learned any business strategies from the man. So that being said, one of the things that I resolved to do early on in my life when I was young, before I got married, was to be the direct opposite of my father. And so that being said, when I get married, we're going through marriage. The early parts of our marriage are great. My wife is earning a six-figure income in a sales job. Her doing that allowed me to pursue my dream to be a firefighter and paramedic. And so, and even at that, I worked a third of the year and made almost six figures at the time, which is good money. So it was a great thing. But we made this move to Iowa, like I mentioned earlier, and she opened up a clothing store, which we always joke was more like a hobby than an actual business, because it sure as heck didn't make any money. And I took a gigantic pay cut because being a firefighter, it was basically volunteer. So I was a paramedic. And I tell the story that I could either save your life or end it, just depending upon one decision or what side of the bed I woke up on that day. And I did it for $13.86 an hour. So
Crazy.
Exactly. So do the math. If you're working 36 hours a week, which is what my shift was, and it wasn't a whole lot. And we had the lifestyle of two pretty much a multiple six-figure income lifestyle on about a tenth of what we used to make. And so we started going broke quickly. And I started seeing this downward spiral and things popping up in our lives financially that had happened to me when I was a kid. And it scared the crap out of me. And so I don't believe in coincidence. I don't believe in fate. I believe in divine interventions. And I believe that, certain things are put in front of me as far as the opportunity to change something. As far as, number one, I wanted to feel better about myself. I gained a lot of weight because of the stress and the working long hours. And I worked the night shift, so the weird hours and all that stuff. And so I had tried going to the gym. My wife was actually teaching a step aerobics class so that we can get half off our membership to try to do it, but it just wasn't working. So I actually, on accident, found P90X on the internet and bought it. Now, I maxed out a credit card in buying it, and my wife was not happy with me about that, but I was just like, I'm going to do it. And it's got a money back guarantee. And if it doesn't start to work, then I promise I'll send it back. And you can tell me I told you so to the day you die. And anyway, but what I did do is I set an intention from day one that I was going to follow it, the plan to a T, and I was going to do it to a T. And if it didn't work, it was because it was the program's fault, not Robert's fault. And so I did that, and I showed up every day, and I set goals from day one that I was going to do this on day 30, do this on day 60, do this on day 90. And I followed up and I followed through. And what I found out is by doing that is in those 90 days, I lost like 8 inches off my waist. I lost 17% body fat. I lost a lot of weight like that. But more importantly than what I lost is what I gained, which was self-confidence, self-esteem, and a self-knowledge that if I do commit to something and follow through, that I can freaking achieve some pretty crazy things. So because of that, and again, I'll try not to make it so long, but because of that and the results I had, people started to notice. And back in those days prior, there was no Facebook, there wasn't Instagram or anything like that. We had message boards. And I was very heavily involved in the message boards because one of the things, being a firefighter and paramedic, I feel like I do have an active a heart for service. So I wanted to get my story out there so I could help other people. And in doing that, people asked me, so what are you eating? Which version of P90X did you do? What type of weights are you using? Yada, yada, yada. And that caught the notice of the founder of the CEO of the company. And he said, hey, I've had my eye on you. Want you to come over here and take a look at this thing. We want to kick off this other side of our company, where we get to coach people in using our products so you get the best results like you got. And you know what? There is an income opportunity tied to it. And I was like, great. Free trip to California. I get to spend time at corporate headquarters and rub elbows. And anyway, so we went and we heard about it. And while we heard about this thing and we're like going, this is network marketing. This is one of those MLM pyramid scheme things. You're going to soil this beautiful thing that we built with this, in this culture we built with this company. But you know what? We get the opportunity to help more people. And you know what, if I can get a little bit of money off, a discount on my products, awesome. And if I can make a little bit more money, even awesomer, yeah, that's fine. Because I'd already been telling everybody about it. So anyway, make a long story short, one of the things that my wife and I did commit to doing, just like I did with P90X, is we're going to follow a plan. Now, we didn't know what plan that was going to be.
Right.
So what we had to do is consult people who had experience in our business, in our industry. And then we read a ton of books and we listened to a bunch of audio and we tried to learn and we gleaned the stuff that we wanted that spoke to us and we put the rest aside. And that's how we started to really learn what this business was all about, all fueled by passion that we had, not only for our products, but also passion that we had for helping people, and the passion that we had to get ourselves out of the muck and the mire of debt that we had built in a short amount of time that was going to derail our marriage and no telling what else if we allow that to keep going on. So I mean, long answer to your question, but that's how I got involved in kind of my story of where we came from to kind of what's gotten us through the beginning. And I'd be much more than happy to tell you about how that's led up to present day, but hopefully that helps shed a little more light.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. So what I heard was you kind of had a pretty common American story, right? Mm-hmm. Ups and downs, we all go through it, right? Jim Rohn, everybody talks about it. It's the wind that blows on us, and then the important thing is how did you react to it, right? And
right.
It goes to react in a great way, and somebody recognized that was the CEO of that company, and it put you on this course for something that completely changed your life.
Right.
But what I didn't hear was interesting. You talked about, reaching out to industry experts, reading books, listening to audio. So like, it wasn't a magic bean scenario.
No.
Like, okay, and we're going to get back to that. And I meant to be funny with that, but the whole point is like, I don't think at any point in time when I ever built the organization with you, anybody ever had a shadow of a doubt that this is the thing we're going to get in, we're going to pour water on it, and it's just going to go crazy by itself, right?
No. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There is no magic bean, like you said. There is no get in and get rich. And if somebody in any industry, and unfortunately that's the stigma that has been given to network marketing and direct sales or multi-level marketing. That stigma has been getting, just sign up and you're going to make money. And if that's crap. And if somebody ever tells you that, you run as quick as you can the other way, because it's a lie. And it's one of those things that, but even let's look at the stock market. Let's look at options. Let's look at buying and selling options. Let's look at buying and selling real estate. Let's look at any type of business, or even your job, your daily job, whether it's working for the government, like we talked about earlier, or in the any other sector, the civilian sector. You've got to get in and you've got to work. Yeah. Because if you don't, you're not going to be collecting that paycheck very long. You're going to get fired. And then guess what? You're going to have the reputation of not working. And so your next job, you're probably going to make less. And it's a downward spiral. And so, no, there is no magic bean. I mean, I tell that to my boys. I have one who is a high-level college athlete, pretty good chance that he'll play professional baseball. And then he's 19. I have a 15-year-old who plays football. And one of the things that we have tried to really get across to those kids, whether it be with their sports or their grades or whatever, it doesn't matter how good looking you are. It doesn't matter how much talent you have, God-given ability and talent that you have. It doesn't matter what your last name is, and it doesn't matter how much money mom and dad do or don't make. Okay? You got to work for what you want. Period. Because, nobody's going to give anything to you. My oldest son was a Texas State baseball player of the year for the whole state. Okay? And he was the state championship MVP. All right. So in baseball. And so he comes in there and he just graduated in 2018. All right. His little brother comes in, is a freshman this year. Hasn't played baseball in the last 4 years. He walked away from the game, but he thought he'd try out, thinking that, I may get by, but at least my last name is Hudgens. My brother just graduated, was one of the best players to ever come through this system. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to probably get a spot based on that. Guess what? He didn't make the team because he didn't put the work in. Right. He decided 2 weeks ahead of time he was going to try out for baseball and that he might make it based upon his last name or based upon the past. He didn't put the work in and he didn't make it. Yep. And you know what? Praise the Lord that happened. Because if he would have, that would have been a horrible lesson for him to learn.
No, for sure. So today, going back to kind of like the furlough in the beginning, right? Like, why would someone consider this industry? Why network marketing today? You know, people who are kind of trapped in, whether it's, you know, the old adage of I want to fire my boss, or I'm just really not happy, or, you know, like I'm living paycheck to paycheck, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
Why would people consider this specific industry today?
Well, you know, in all honesty, the one thing that I love about the network marketing industry, the direct sales industry, is that literally anyone can do it with any company. All right. And I know that sounds, I mean, I'm not going to come on here and tout you know, extol the benefits of the company that I work with, because honestly, I think that if you have a heart and a passion to succeed and you're a goal-driven person and you are willing to work your tail off, you can do some pretty special things with just about anything out there. Now, one of the things that I love about this industry in general is that you can make a pretty decent amount of money, if not an exorbitant amount of money, with very little risk and overhead to start. Case in point, let's say I want to go and open up a McDonald's, okay? I'm going to have to shell out probably on the short side $1 million. I mean, it just depends on real estate. On the high side, a hell of a lot more than that. And guess what? I'm not going to break even for a long, long time. Now, granted, I have a franchise model, I have a book, and I have people there that are going to help guide me in the direction that I can go, so that will be successful and profitable eventually. All right.
And just, sorry, not to interrupt, but like, and you have literally one of the top brands that's recognized globally, right?
Right.
So,
right.
Sorry,
So you have all of that, but it costs you a lot of money to get that.
Right.
Now, granted, when you put that money out there, that $1 million plus out there for that McDonald's, you're going to show up day in and day out, and you're going to work your butt off because you have just put all that money out there for that business. Okay. So let's take that and put it over to network marketing. Depending upon what company you go with, it can be as little as $50 to join and open for business, all the way up to a couple thousand. I don't know. It just depends on the company.
Yep.
But think about that. Now, here's the great thing about that. Low overhead, high opportunity for gain. You can, if you're willing to work half as hard, but especially just as hard as you would if you just invested all this $1 million in this company over here to building this one, this can by far blow the other way a hell of a lot quicker. Number one. Number two, though, what's great about this company over here is you're getting a brand, you're getting mentoring, you're getting a book of how to be successful. The same thing goes over here.
Right.
You have the opportunity to be mentored by your sponsor, the people that brought them in. You have people who are willingly want to share with you their experiences and share with you what has made them successful. People don't keep secrets over here, because guess what? People who keep secrets about being successful over here in this network marketing industry, in this network marketing business, don't stay successful for long, because guess what? Their success is predicated on your success. But guess what? Let's say you start out at this McDonald's on the ground floor. You're a fry cook. Okay. You're in charge of cooking the burgers. You are never going to make flipping burgers as much as your manager does. And your manager is never going to make as much as your regional manager does. And your regional manager is not going to make as much as your area director and such and such and so and so and so forth, all the way up to CEO. Never going to happen until you climb those ladders. Here's the beautiful thing about the direct sales industry. If Michael sponsors me into his business, I have every opportunity and more to blow past him financially, just depending upon if I'm willing to work or not.
Right.
So that's what's great about this. And all of this can be done on a part-time basis.
Right. So
you
let
can
me
get a full-time fortune.
Yeah, let me jump in right there because you just triggered something which I think is pretty powerful. So, and I don't remember, so clean up anything that I say wrong. And I don't remember the specific amount of time that you were already involved, right? But when I met you, I believe you were a 5-star diamond in that company at that time.
Right.
And then a year later, so basically, Robert already had this system in place. He was kind of one of the masters, right? And he was what you and Melissa were both working in the hearts and minds of leaders and duplicating this successful thing that I just happened to sort of inherit because I hunted you down like the freak that I was, or whatever you said earlier, right? But in a year's time, you went to, if it wasn't 9, it was beyond a 9-star diamond in that company, right?
It was a 15. I went to the top rank in the company within a year after meeting you. Yes.
Right. And so in that time also, you helped facilitate me becoming a 1-star diamond, right?
Right.
And all I was doing, again, was talking about what you said in the beginning. It was like a system that I learned because I had a lot of faith and trust in you guys, just because of your story. And then just the fact that we clicked. So I didn't ever feel like I needed to reinvent the wheel. And so just to kind of make it kind of a little bit more next level, which people probably don't understand, like I was in Italy for almost another full year.
Mm-hmm.
When I started that business, the only way I built that business was over Skype and email.
Right.
And so I think that's a big thing today. So for one, I was motivated. Mm-hmm. I wanted to get to some place. I didn't want Rachel stressing anymore about money, right? So I went to work, which we talked about, right? There was probably a little ethical thing there, like with me, like just being really hungry, right? And moving. But I think the parallels today, like how technology has advanced and how, the system has become even more, I'm going to use the word simplistic because it's not easier, but we have tools and ways to do this so much more easy today or simplistic today. So when you were having that kind of like that growth, what was going on in that season? Like, was it you doing more individualized efforts? Was it you taking kind of that leadership role and then seeing people with leadership potential and, working in their hearts and their minds and their lives? And, can you talk about that? Because that was a very powerful year for you.
It was. And one of the realizations that I came to during that year was that, it was a focus. It was a more focused effort on more focused people. And because I think one of the things that stresses people out in business in general, okay, is that you feel like that you have to go out and get everybody.
Right.
Now, first of all, nobody wants to get gotten. Okay. and so you feel like you got to go out and get everybody, and you've got to talk to everybody, and you got to try to get as many people as you possibly can to join your business and to follow you and this, that, and the other. And then they all have to be successful in order for you to be successful. Okay. That's not the case. Okay. Here's my feeling, which, by the way, any income claims, any success claims, I'm always going to say it's directly proportionate into how much you want to work your butt off. If you want to lose a bunch of weight, you got to work your butt off and watch what you eat. If you want to make a lot of money, you got to work your butt off and watch what you do. Okay. So just like with this thing too. So, but let's just say, in our industry in general, one of the first books I read called your First Year in Network Marketing, and by Mark Yarnell and Renee Reed Yarnell, I think, are the two authors. One of the things that they said early on was that in traditional business, you can work, you come out of college, usually around 25 years old with a degree, you start your job and you work for the next 40 years until you're 65 so that you can retire, hopefully with a decent pension and a gold watch. Okay. In direct sales network marketing, again, this was in 2006, 2007. We actually kicked everything off in January 2007. They said in direct sales industry, average is if you work as hard, if you worked your butt off for 4 years, not 40, for 4 years, you will have at least 5 times, if not 10 times, the income that you had after 4 years of building up that pension. So in my mind, I thought, I am going to do whatever I can once I figure this out, get the right mentoring. I'm going to bust my butt for at least 4 years to see how big and how much momentum we can really start ramping up with this. But one of the things they also said in that book is you don't have to go out and find the masses. Now, you can probably tell from me, I'm a believer, and I'm not, I mean, I follow Jesus, and if you don't like that, you know, who cares? But I mean, that's the thing is one of the things that I truly believe is that I kind of model what I do around what he did. Okay. You know, he could have gone out and witnessed to the masses and to the world, and he could have walked on water, which he did, and pulled rabbits out of hats and changed all the water in the world to wine, and everybody would have loved him, and probably 95% of the masses of the earth would have followed him because of the tricks that he did. Okay? I'm just saying that's just what he did. But he chose not to do that. He chose to find 12 men, 12 people that he poured his mentorship, his heart. Now, granted, he spoke to the masses, but he spoke into 12. Yep. And in our industry, if you can find 3 to 5 true core people that you can pour into and that you can mentor and who are hungry and what I will call a racehorse. You have your racehorses like Secretariat, that's all they want to do is run and train, and they love that. And then you have horses that you put out in the pasture and let them eat grass. But the ones that are Secretariats that always want to run and train, you feed your best feed to, you feed your best oats, your best training into. You get the best trainers. They do that. If you can get 3 to 5 of those, you'll make 6 figures in this industry. If you find 8 to 12, not 800 to 1200, 8 to 12, you can get into the 7-figure income range. Again, it's based upon how hard you want to work. But if you just kind of keep on that level, now it may take you a lot to find those 12. But once you find your first 1, your first 2, your first 3, your first 4, just like a great trainer, horse trainer, they start to get to see which foals stand up fast and go, oh, he's going to be good. And they get to see which horses, and they can recognize who's going to be powerful versus those who aren't. And so it's easier to find your others to make up your 12. And so with that, you focus your mentorship, your effort on those, and actually makes your job easier. And based upon those 12, guess what you do? You pour into them and you go tell them to find their 12. And then they pour into those people and they go find their 12. And it duplicates and it duplicates. And that's truly what I did in that year. Is I finally figured out, I had Michael was one of my 12. I found my 12. And with that 12, we blew it up. And my organization's been as big as 60,000 people and bringing in a 7-figure income. And with that, it was just because I found 12 and got focused. And so kind of going back to the main question you had earlier of why network marketing is you have the opportunity to do that. Right. You have the opportunity to find your 12. You have the opportunity to really own something that you can surround yourself. So number one, you can pick who you want to work with and who you don't want to work with. Don't have human resources.
That's one of my favorite things. Like nowhere else in traditional business do you have that opportunity, really.
Yeah. Yeah. And so birds of a feather flock together. So you're going to surround yourself with the people you want to be around. And so together with people you want to be around, hungry, if you're hungry, passionate, if you're passionate, willing, if you're willing, people, surround yourself with those people and build something together that can be pretty special. And because you already like to be around them anyway, and then you all hopefully you're becoming financially successful, you're able to do some cool stuff together with your families, which I'll hit on in just a minute. But you're able to do some pretty cool stuff that a lot of people who aren't in this same boat aren't able to do, or have the freedom, or who are tied to that paycheck, so that heaven forbid another furlough happens or another government shutdown happens. They're not sitting there going, oh my gosh, I've got to go stand in this line with this other 500 people so that I can get some food, or not know how I'm going to make my apartment payment, or my house payment, my car payment. I don't know how I'm going to do that. You're not reliant on somebody else to make your next decision for you.
Right.
It is freeing to be able to do that. Now, Michael and I are not telling you that this is a magic potion. You may love your job, and that's amazing. It's a blessing to absolutely love what you do. Rachel had the choice to go back. Michael's wife, Rachel, had the choice to go back and be a school teacher, and she did. Guess why? She loves it. Now, you think she has to? Probably not. But she wanted to, and she loved that job. So having the freedom to go and do that because you want to is great. But doing it because you have to is not. And so
there also might be a season where you have to get to work. You know, you have to sacrifice certain things.
Oh, absolutely.
Shows, coaching, whatever the case may be, but it's only a temporary sacrifice, right? Because what you're doing is you're alleviating, you're cleaning up some time on your calendar that you can really get laser focused on something that's going to answer, part of that's, whatever, put a patch on the situation by being able to generate some of that extra money, which is kind of like the underlying topic.
It's just like the off season for a football player or a baseball player.
Right.
They get highly focused in the off season. They're focused in the season, but they're working their tail off. They're doing the wind sprints. They're hitting the gym. They're watching their nutrition. They are dialed in. They're laser focused, getting prepared for the season. And it's just like anything else in life. There is a season where you have to be laser focused, and maybe you're part of a bowling league, or maybe you're part of a softball league, which is great. I don't like bowling because I blew out a bicep tendon doing it, but I love softball, and I love those types of things. But there was a period in my life where I gave up my softball league, my men's league, which was awesome fellowship. But I gave that up because I needed to be on the phone in the evening. Now, one of the things I will tell you, this is free advice, during that season that Michael was talking about when we were building to the top rank in our company, to the 15-star diamond part, was that I sat my kids down. My wife and I set our kids down, and we explained to them what we were going after, what our goals were, and why we were doing it, why daddy was going to need to be on the phone, or maybe be on the road a little bit, maybe why daddy wasn't going to be able to tuck him in bed every night, why dad may have to skip a dinner table time with them, those types of things, why that was going to happen, and we explained to them the actual rank in the company and what it meant financially for us. But once I did hit that, what we would be able to do, and the freedom that we'd be able to get. So we involved them in that. And so they were able to hold me accountable. Hey dad, how many people did you talk to today? Or, hey dad, where are we at right now? And hey dad, are they going to recognize you on the call today? Hey dad, did you get your new pen? Did you get your new trophy? Did you, whatever it might be, they were constantly do that, so that the day came that we hit it, and we celebrated as a family.
Yeah.
Instead of just my wife and I high-fiving and celebrating as a couple, we celebrated as a family because we felt like we hit it together. But also, there was no animosity that my kids had towards my business because it was taking me away from them.
Right.
They knew that it was going to be a short sacrifice for long-term gain. And even when they were, again, they're young, they're very young at this time, they still understood that. And I think it also gave them a better lesson too, that it takes sacrifice to succeed. And we've gone back to that period in time and referenced that in different seasons of their life, whether it be for school or for sports or whatever it might be. We've talked about that time, and they remember it very well, but they also remember the celebration that happened afterwards. And so it helps to focus them. And it was definitely a good lesson for them.
It's such a powerful education for kids to watch it. And I love that you brought up that whole, like, you sat everybody down, because I do, this is just a comment on internal things for the, I guess the variety of companies that are out there. I think a lot of times families miss the mark because they don't really have that conversation. So
Right.
people can get into this, like we're talking about the furlough and people that are really in a position of need, right? And if there's all this stress, one of the great things we do as parents is we can kind of calm and level the playing field, so everybody's really thinking through all the different aspects. And it is super important. Like, I mean, you and I have done multiple 30-day runs in the organization, and you got to have that conversation up front, just kind of calm everybody down. Hey, this is a temporary thing, but this is exactly what's going to happen on the other side. And I just think that that's so powerful, right? Like the most powerful thing that you and I both have are just unbelievably strong, believing women who
Mm-hmm.
are behind us, right?
Mm-hmm.
The second most powerful thing I think we can have is our kids on board, right? And you certainly have created that environment for them. So you had a powerful story. You had this amazing journey. You affected positively a lot of people's lives. It kind of transformed, got you way back all the way around to where you guys were income wise and beyond, before the move to Iowa and all that stuff. So, did you just park yourself and sit there and just kind of like, what was it, Scrooge, Ebenezer Scrooge, just count money? Like, have you only stayed in network marketing? And I know the answer to this, but I want you to touch on it, right? Because you and I are very, very much serial entrepreneurs, and we have multiple companies. So
Right.
this company put you kind of in a position, right, because of your experience there and the work you absolutely did, to move into some traditional stuff also.
It has because of the income, but also, frankly, because of the time freedom that we have. Because we get a well more than a full-time income with a very part-time business, and so it has allowed us to have the freedom to pursue other avenues of income, income generation, other streams of income, whether it be, we're very heavily involved in real estate. We've bought quite a bit of real estate in the past few years. Of course, we do things in the market. We do things in, we have foundations set up for, my sister-in-law is a missionary over in Africa, has built an orphan care facility over there, and we've set up foundations to help support her. And my wife works with that. I've opened up a self-storage facility, and because everybody's got entirely too much crap and need a place to store it, and we've done that, and so it has allowed us to venture into different areas, and because being an entrepreneur, number one, you're always looking for the opportunity to expand and to continue to feed that entrepreneurial bug, the entrepreneurial spirit that you have. Now, granted, everything is risky.
Sure.
There's always going to be risk in everything you do, but that's also part of the fun is to beat that risk. And not everything is successful. I mean, you're going to fail, but luckily, you know how to fail wisely, and then you also know how to succeed wisely. And then, in doing that, you also begin to surround yourselves with the right people that can help you succeed in those different areas. So you're not having to shoulder the burden all the time. Now, much like, you were just talking about, the beauty about that is you want to be diversified, and you don't want to have your eggs all in one basket. And it could be, hey, you got the goose that laid the golden egg. That's great. But sometimes eggs break, and you want to make sure or who knows, the egg may go fertile for a little bit. And I mean, that goose may go fertile for a little bit. And so you need to have a backup plan. So, just like we were talking about the government shutdown, it's great to have a backup plan. It's great to have, your hands in other things so that you're not just relying in that one area. And the same thing goes with this. Listen, you could be raking in millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars in this industry, in this one company, and that's fantastic. And a lot of people get caught sitting back on their laurels and just collecting a check. All right. Whereas that's not really what we were called to do. We were called to not be sedentary. We were called to be to be hunters, to get out there and do it. And it's smart. It's a smart business decision to do that. But frankly, that's also where the most fun is too. And, learning a new skill, getting into a new business, a new arena, putting your stamp on something. And I wanted to talk about this because I think that leads me into to something else that I think is more meaningful than anything we've talked about earlier. This past Monday, we buried a good friend of mine, and a 52-year-old gentleman that was the salt of the earth. And you want to talk about someone who was community focused. He was kid focused, family focused. He was successful in real estate. He was successful in different business ventures and whatnot. But the one thing that if you were to look at him and look at John, you would see that, he was about his family. He was about dating his wife and courting her. And then his 3 kids, his 2 boys and his daughter, all 8th grade and under. He was about being present in their lives. He was the football commissioner for our youth football league. And, so, he was a man of patience and self-control, because I was a coach in that league, and it takes a lot of patience, self-control. And, he coached their teams. He was at every event for them. And he was taken very suddenly. Within 24 hours of thought he had a chest cold, and turned around, got septic, and died.
Wow. And
it was such a shock to our community because he was a community guy. And he was a man's man. The guy you wanted to be around, the guy when he walked in the room, you wanted to go talk to him no matter what. And why I talk about that is because when we went to this funeral on Monday, that place was packed, okay? And it was packed with kids. It was packed with people in their 20s, people in their 30s, people in their 40s, all the way up to people in their 80s. And it's because he touched all of those people in one way or the other. And I can't tell you how many grown men that I know to be stoic came out with tears in their eyes because of the legacy that John left behind. And it wasn't because John made millions of dollars. It wasn't because John was famous. It was because John left a legacy. He left a legacy of community service. He left a legacy of being others focused and serving others. He left a legacy of, there was 3 rows full of football players, young kids that all had their Pee-wee jerseys on with his name on duct tape or tape across the back, Lowther back, across at the back, written in, sitting there. He touched every one of those young men's lives. That is a legacy.
Right.
And so I truly believe, as a father, as a man, and as a human being, it is my job to leave a legacy. And I have the opportunity to do that. Now, mine just happens to be my vehicle just happens to be network marketing. And it's been an amazing vehicle to be able to touch people worldwide. But I truly believe that's what we are called to do. And just going to your job, sitting in there 7 to 5, 8 to 5, 9 to 5, 6, whatever your job may be, and punching a clock is not allowing us and you to leave the legacy that you are called to leave behind. And I hated in my life that even though I love doing that, I coach my kids, I'm very heavily involved. I don't want a funeral to remind me the importance of doing that.
Right.
And so that is one of the things why I love being able to give, Michael asked me a while back if I would be on here and speak with him. And I know we've gone way over our time, but to come on here and speak with him about this. And I said, I'm going to have to speak with something that's just on my heart. And he's like, dude, riff, go for it. And I was like, awesome. But to me, that's truly what it's about. And whatever vehicle you use to do that is up to you.
Yeah.
And but go do it, and do it to the fullest of your ability, and set goals and commit to it and follow through, because your hope and your prayer is that at the end of your days that you pack out a house because of the legacy that you've left in your community and for those, and in your family and for those around you. So, I mean, honestly, that's what we're here for. And that's one of the things I loved about Michael whenever he and I first got involved with each other was I didn't ask him if he wanted to make $1 million. I asked him what kind of man he wanted to be. I asked him what he wanted to do with his family. I asked him what his goals in his life were. I asked him about his kids. I asked him about his wife. I asked him why he loved them so much and why he was willing to sacrifice so much, why he wanted to walk away from a big paycheck to do something that he already knew how to do, which was be overseas contracting, or take a gigantic pay cut to be around his family. Why was that? Because that is so against the norm in our society today. So getting to know that and to know what was in here with Michael, I got to know what was going to drive him and why I wanted to be part of that process too. And because of that, you can be darn well that Michael and the people that he is touching are leaving that same type of legacy as well. And that's what we need. And I'll get off my soapbox. And again, this comes from either side of the aisle. I don't care if you're Republican, Democrat, Independent, atheistic, Christian, Muslim, Hindu, it doesn't matter. Your job is to leave your place better than when you got here.
Yeah.
And you got to figure out a way to do that. My avenue just happens to be the direct sales industry, and now real estate and other ventures. But whatever you got to just do do something you're passionate about, and freaking do it with everything you got, and you're going to leave something special behind.
Yeah. No, and I love that you touched on that part where when we're kids, there's no limit to what we want to do, right? And then we get socialized. And we have all this environmental influence that, it's the 40-40-40 deal that they start telling you in elementary school, get a job that you'll work 40 hours a week, you'll do that for 40 years. And then somehow you're going to retire on 40% of what you barely survived on then, right?
Right.
It's so like that indoctrination. But the coolest thing that I saw, and I still believe in this industry is, Zig Ziglar said, money isn't everything, but it's ranked way up there like oxygen, right? And the point is, I believe that money is kind of like the great neutralizer, right? Like we don't have to obsess about money. It's one of the worst things you can possibly do in life is obsess about money. But when you have it and it allows you to literally be in whatever calling you had in life, right? You're in your sweet spot, right? And stress is dropping off, and you're not answering to everybody, that kind of thing. We started the year before last our second traditional business. We have an athletic event company, and then we have a corporate team building company. And when I kicked that off, a lot of my buddies who kind of know my story, but they don't really know my full story, were like, why are you starting another endeavor right now? Like that company is doing great. You're excited. Well, the reality was they don't know that I have a restaurant concept that I've been obsessing about for about 20 years that I eventually want to launch. And it's ungodly expensive, and I don't want to pollute it or break it apart with investors and have all these other people controlling it, right? So like I've always kind of looked at, okay, what does it take me to get to basically like a $6 million like deal, right? That's my sweet spot, right? Is like getting there. And I have other smaller sweet spots, like working in people's lives and doing a lot of the stuff that you've talked about through today. But I'm glad you touched on that, because so many people, if they had a magic wand, would be doing completely opposite stuff that they're doing today. And I just think that, that was kind of the whole point of having this talk, is opportunities out there for everybody, regardless of like what you said, race, religion, gender, creed, all of it. It's unbelievable how much opportunity is out there. Oftentimes something just needs to happen to make people move in that direction, and we always hope and pray that that's not a catastrophic deal. But your story is very similar. It started with you being hungry for X amount of reasons. My story was about hunger, X amount of reasons, trying to really take control back. And I think kind of in wrapping all this up, and I'm not cutting it off. You can definitely have the floor to close out how you want. But the keys that we talked about today, I think, is that, one, opportunity exists, whether it's traditional or network marketing style. There's a way to get moving with it and be successful. Magic beans are not part of that equation. Right? I mean, there's very few people that just have this vision that a venture capitalist or an unbelievably wealthy person is just going to be like, you know what? I'm at the craps table right now. Here you go. Here's 2 million. Go run with it. It happens so, far and few between. So we touched on the magic beans. It's going to take work. There's ethics that's tied into it. I think even in business, and these were I think your words, or this is at least what I took away from it, is, pouring into people often has very long-term positive things for us as humans, but then also in business, right? So it's not about, having the big bullwhip and go, go, go. It's about really caring about people. And oftentimes that ties to their childhood and stuff that happened in the past, right? So ethics is part of it. And then I don't think we really said it, but I think everybody kind of understands it, that it can be completely worth it, right?
Right.
But it's going to take a little bit of work to get there. So, so the one thing I wanted to say in this is, maturity hits us at a lot of different phases in life. And quite frankly, on a purely transparent level, I worked with Robert very closely and tightly for a while. And then I made a very bad decision to walk away from it. And the scariest part of that, about the moment when I made that decision, was our income was still growing based on what I was doing with you. And that was a maturity thing on my part, right? I was very hungry. I don't think like, that's not something you missed in my life. At that time, I was very, very hungry. But what you can do also is you can hear other stories and think that there's, the grass is greener on the other side. And I remember sitting Rachel down and telling her that I was getting ready to make this decision. And she absolutely looked at me. She said, "You're an absolute idiot. That's ridiculous." And the reason why she said that is because we fell in love with you and Melissa and everything that had happened. And there was no reason to change anything, but it was me making a decision, not doing enough research, and moving on. And that the reason why I'm addressing it is, one, I've already said this to you once before, but I want to say it kind of in an open format. But also the point is, this does happen sometimes inside this industry, where people, I don't really think it was a jealous thing, but like for me, like I just wanted you had a powerful story in my life because you were a founder. And so like that kind of started a thought process of mine based on other people's input, that I take the responsibility because I made the decision. I'm a man. I know that. But that's another part, this industry. And I think, it's awesome that we have reconciled that, because I know it was painful for you. It was painful for us for sure. And we went through, I would say, an awkward season for a little bit. And, all we can do is, I think about it, when you raise your kids, all you can do is raise them under the ethics and the things that you want them to be able to do and go forward with in life. And I just think it's so amazing that, you and I came full circle around. We're back, and just doing great things like this. The whole point of this is to help other people understand what opportunity is. But, you pour in people, and then if people make a decision and move on, That's the name of the game, because they're all the captains of their ship. But I just wanted to touch on that too. And so I'm really appreciative of the fact that, you know, you had the time to do this and you wanted to do it. And I know your heart. I think you know mine. And, you know, it was mind blowing for me to see, you know, 600, you know, hear that like 38, 40-year-olds that have multiple kids were on food stamps and they had no backup plan. And I'm like, this is not the only thing that's, you know, innovating. Like, business has massively innovated, and it's not like when my dad was an engineer trying to start a business on the side. There's so many resources, services, and great people like you out there that can help people along the way. So, yeah. So that was my piece.
Man, I appreciate that, and you know I do, and we've talked that through, and it's been, you know, the beautiful thing about this life and kind of what we're called to do is that, you know, we're called to just you know, it's like raising our kids. You know, you think you control them, but you don't control them. You know, and you pour into them and you show them the ways that they're supposed to go. And there's going to be times when they may walk away. There's sometimes when they're going to come, when, you know, it's kind of like the story of the prodigal. But at the same time, I mean, you just bless and release, and then you and then you have grace and you love them anyway. And it doesn't matter what you're in. It doesn't matter if it's in a business like this. But the beautiful thing about through all this is there was always love, and there was always respect, and there was always, you know what, even though we're not in the same boat anymore, I pray that his ship reaches the greatest shore that he's ever wanted to go to, because he's on it. Pure and simple. It's because he's on it. And I think it does take a level of maturity, and I'd have to say my wife was probably the mature one sometimes, but of saying, you know, listen, it's awesome for them. You want them to be successful. Yes, I absolutely want it. So were you doing it because you want to be more successful, or are you doing it because you want him to be successful? I want him to be successful. Well, then just pray for him. And we do that. But to be able to have that friendship back, and it's kind of like losing communication with the guy for a little while, and then getting back and being able to talk with them. And I love it. It's awesome. And it would have never happened if we both stayed in our little part of the world, him being Italy, mine being Iowa. And if we had just kept to ourselves and just did what we were doing and what we knew to do, which was him in the military and me as a paramedic, if we just stayed in that little bubble that we had and refused to get outside of it and expand past that bubble, we would have never had the opportunity to create that type of relationship that has now lasted 10 years and I know will last forever. And to be able to grow together and because of each other, and then to bring our families and other people along the way, it's a special thing. And yeah, and you're right. I just pray that, you know, I don't know how many people are going to view these videos. I pray it's a ton. And the one thing that I don't want them to take away that this is Robert Hudgens commercial or a Michael Schwarting commercial. I want them to take away, if anything, I hope at least one person comes away with, you know what? Hope.
Yep.
Because that's really the only thing we can really try to grasp. And it's just like the song says, hope is what we crave. That's truly what it is, because it's amazing what can happen in a person's life when they have hope and when they know that there is something better than what they're in right now. And all it takes is just getting out there and putting yourself out there and asking for help and asking for someone to lead you and having a little faith that the sky is not going to fall on you. But then also, here's the deal. The sky may start to fall sometimes, but when you surround yourself with people like Mike, like I was with Michael, and like the people that we've been able to surround ourselves in our lives, when that sky is falling, they're always there with an umbrella. And so that if you can do that, you can weather any storm, and the opportunity is out there greater than any time ever in our history. It truly is. And I'm seeing people, when we're talking about me being a founder with this company, I just want to hit on this really quick. When people are like, well, you're successful because you got it at the beginning. That's what you always hear with network marketing is you got to be there at the beginning because then you lose it and it gets saturated and this, that, and the other. Let me just tell you, first and foremost, that's a bunch of crap because I see people coming into this business right now that have been in for 1 year, 2 year, 3 years that are killing it and bypassing me, okay, which is awesome. High five. But they're earning a greater income than what I earn. I've been doing this for 12 years, okay? Number one. Number two is, let me ask you, do you think the founding fathers of the United States had everything great? And it was amazing. They had a great life and things got worse as we went along. No, they stubbed their toes. They went through wars. They made a lot of mistakes. They butted heads. They did the wrong thing a lot of times and before they got it right. That's what we did as founders of any company. Steve, you look at Steve Jobs, you look at Bill Gates, you look at Mark Zuckerberg, you look at anybody with any gigantic company, I promise you, they failed more times than they succeeded until they finally got it right. And that's what you do as any company. So it really doesn't matter what you decide to get into. Just get into it and commit to it, stick with it, get the right counseling, the right training, read a ton of books, listen to a ton of audio, feed this with the right positive stuff instead of the evening news and bad news and all this other stuff. And you know what? Worst case scenario, you're a better person afterwards.
Yep.
But you know what? The better you become, the more success you're going to attract.
That's awesome.
Okay, point blank.
Yeah. No, thank you so much. That was huge. I'm glad we went this long, actually. So I really appreciate it. You can find Robert on Facebook. What other places can people?
You can find me on Facebook, Robert.Hudgens, or you can find me on Instagram, R's and Robert B is it R Hudgens? I think it's R Hudgens, just R and last name Hudgens. Follow me on Instagram. You'll find out that I have a ranch I like to spend a lot of time with. I love my kids and I drive big trucks. So, and ride dirt bikes and shoot guns.
That's right. You got that 450 now, don't you? The F450.
Oh, yeah, it's a beast. Big dually. It's a big dually. I like to haul stuff.
So, that's fair. Because you deserve it. So
yeah, I'm in Texas too. I got to drive a truck.
That's true. That's true.
So anyway, but thank you. Many blessings, Michael. Thank you for having me on this, man. Thank you for doing this. It's a valuable resource for people to give them hope, and the people that you are bringing on. I love watching the series, and so I can't wait to see who you got on next. And thanks for letting me be part of it, my friend.
Absolutely awesome. Well, tell Melissa I said hey, and I look forward to chatting with you again soon.
All right, brother. Take care.
Thanks.